You don't need more plants to fix your garden, you just need to move the right ones. Every spring I see the same thing happen. People walk into the garden center thinking the solution is to add more plants, more soil, more color, and for a moment it feels like progress. But then, a few weeks later, the space still doesn't feel right. It's fuller, but not better. And that's the part most people don't expect, because after working in gardens for over 25 years, I've learned something very simple. The garden doesn't come together because you add more, it comes together when things are in the right place. Sometimes the plant is already there, it just needs better light, more space, a different position in the garden, and when you make that one small shift, everything starts to settle. It feels clearer, more intentional, more like a space you actually want to be in. So before you buy anything new, just pause. Look at what you already have, because the answer might already be in your garden. You just haven't placed it yet. I was at a garden last week. At first glance, everything looked good. Healthy plants, good variety. Nothing was dying. But the moment you stood in the space, something felt off. Not wrong, just unsettled. Some areas felt like they were too heavy, too crowded, plants pushing into each other, blocking light, blocking movement. And then just a few steps away, it opened up too much. Empty patches, no connection, no flow between one area and the next. So even though the plants were good, the space didn't feel right. It didn't feel like a garden you could relax in. And the first thing they said to me was, we probably just need more plants. But they didn't. What they needed was to see the space differently, not as individual plants, but as a whole. So instead of adding anything, we started moving things. Just a small shift, plant here, a bit more plants or space there, opening one area, tightening another. Nothing dramatic, but within a short time you could feel the difference. The space started to breathe, it made sense, it felt balanced. And that's when it clicked. They didn't need more plants, they just needed the right placement. And always remember, if you're going to be digging up plants and repositioning them, the best time of the year for this is late winter, December, January, even February. And if you do have to do it in the springtime, make sure when you do replant them, you fill the ground halfway full of water first. Place your plant in there, water it again, and keep it slightly moist through the growing season so it can get reestablished.
The problem wasn't the plants, it was where they were placed. So instead of adding anything new, we worked with what was already there. No big changes, no redesign, just small intentional adjustments.
We brought a few plants forward so they could actually be seen and appreciated. We moved others back to open up the space. We created breathing room so everything didn't feel like it was competing. And as we made those shifts, something started to change. Not dramatically, but noticeably. The garden began to make sense. The lines became clearer, you could see where one space ended and the next one began. There was a natural flow, a direction your eye could follow without effort. And the feeling of the space changed. It felt lighter, more balanced, more settled, not because we added anything, but because we removed the tension. And the surprising part, it didn't take long. Within an hour, the entire garden felt different. Same plants, same space, just arranged with intention. And that's the moment it clicks. You don't always need more plants, more color, more pieces. Sometimes you just need to pause, step back, look at what you already have, because the answer is often already there. It's just a matter of placing things in a way that actually works. This is the simplest tool most people overlook, and it changes everything. When people ask me, how do you make a garden feel finished? I don't start with plants, I start with structure. Because a garden doesn't come together just by adding more, it comes together when everything has a place. And one of the easiest ways to do that is something I use all the time. I call it layering. It's very simple, you're not overthinking it, you're just looking at the space in 3 levels. What sits in the front, what holds the middle, and what gives height at the back. Once you start seeing your garden in this way, everything becomes clearer, and that's when the space begins to feel complete. First, the front layer. This is where everything stays low. Clean, simple, ground cover, small plants, nothing pushing too high, nothing blocking the view. This is the part what people often overthink, but it's what sets the tone for the whole space. Because this front layer is what your eye sees. When it's open, the garden feels inviting, easy to step in, easy to understand. Move through it, you can see what's behind it, nothing feels crowded. But when this area gets too full, too many plants, too many shapes competing, the whole garden starts to feel tight, heavy, hard to read. And it doesn't matter how good the plants are, the space won't feel right. So here, you don't need more, you need restraint. Keep it simple, give things room, let this layer breathe, because when the front is clear, everything behind it has a chance to shine. Then the middle layer. This is the structure, the part that holds everything together. Plants like boxwood, choice viburnums, things that keep their shape. This is where the eye settles, where the garden starts to feel stable, not too flat, not too chaotic. And finally, the back layer. This is where you bring in height, trees, taller shrubs, something that lifts the whole space. This gives the garden depth, it creates a backdrop, and it draws your eye through the space instead of stopping it. Now when these three layers are working together, you don't need a lot of plants. You don't need to fill every gap, because the structure does the work for you. The space feels balanced, connected, easy to move through, and this is the key. You're not just placing plants randomly, you're building a simple framework that everything else fits into. So next time you look at the garden, don't ask, what should I add? Ask, do I have these three layers? Because once you get that right, everything else becomes much easier. Most of the time, better results come from doing less. This is what I'm doing here. Not adding anything new, just adjusting what's already in place. A small shift forward, opening a bit of space here, pulling something back, so it's not competing for the same light. Nothing dramatic, but every small move changes how this space feels. You start to notice the air between plants, how light moves through the garden, where your eye goes, and where it gets stuck. And that's what I'm paying attention to. Not just the plants themselves, but the space around them. Because when everything is too hot, too tight, the garden feels heavy. But when you create just a bit of room, everything settles. So instead of filling every gap, I'm letting the space breathe, letting each plant stand on its own, and slowly the whole garden becomes to feel clearer. More open, more intentional, same plants, same garden, just adjusting the right way. Same plants completing different garden. Nothing new was added, same plants, same space, but now it feels different. It feels open, there's space between things, you can actually see each plant. It feels calm, not crowded, not competing, everything has its place. And most importantly, it makes sense. Your eye can move through the garden without getting stuck. You can see where things begin and where they end. There's a natural flow. And that's the difference. Not more plants, just better placement. This is where your garden starts to feel right. And this is the part I like most. When you step back and something shifts, you're not thinking about problems anymore. You're not trying to fix anything. You're just standing there, looking at the space, and it feels right. You can imagine sitting there having coffee, spending time in it. It's no longer just a collection of plants, it becomes a place. And that's what most people are really looking for. Not more plants, but a space they can actually enjoy. And sometimes you're already closer than you think. You just need to see it differently. You might already have everything you need. So let me ask you something. Is your garden full, but still doesn't feel quite right? Or maybe it feels a bit empty, like something's missing, but you're not sure what. Tell me what your space feels or looks like. Sun, shade, crowded, open, and I'll help you figure out what to adjust, what to move, before you spend more money on anything new. Because sometimes a small change is all it takes. I'm Darrell, and I'll see you out there.